Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 173 with your host, Victor Ahipenny. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast. And today I am interviewing Chris Schwab, who is a serial entrepreneur and the founder of Inova Local, it provides local businesses with virtual assistants. He's also created ThinkMaids and Local Business Dash. What's really cool about this is the way that he's kind of gone about creating this business and how quickly it exponentially grew, and the ways that he laser focused on one way of getting new clients in and the results that happened in, and some of the learning and growth pains that he didn't necessarily believe in. It's a really in-depth and open story about how he's gone from a startup to what I deem as a very successful company and companies. So you're going to love this episode. But when you do, I'd love it if you could jump over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And of course, everything that we talk about will be on passiveincomeyoung.com. We've also got some free training for you to get started in your own business or to get more of an online presence. So if you enjoy this, then be sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy. You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the number one resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms. Youngpreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Ahipenny, and as always, thank you for deciding to spend your time with myself and our guest today, because you are the sum of the five people you spend your time with. And today I have Chris Schwab, who is the founder and CEO of Inova Local, and he is going to share with us his, I guess, interesting journey on how he's be able to do what a lot of you out there have been chasing, that dream that many of you have read, the 4-hour work week and the rest of it, and try to become location independent. So we're going to delve into that and so many other things. But first off, welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate being here.
I'd love to break down the barriers for some of those people out there listening and get a bit of an idea of what did growing up look like for you from an entrepreneurial business point of view. Was it something that was always on the cards? Was it like, were you selling stuff online or in community rags, or the lemonade stand outside the house? What did it all look like for you?
It was the total opposite of Gary Vaynerchuk outfit. So I wasn't selling baseball cards or doing any of that stuff. I did move a lot. So I moved I'm a dual citizen of the US and the UK. I moved from the US and the UK a lot. And through that, I really didn't have any chance to, I guess, develop entrepreneurially. I also went to a boarding school, so the opportunities to actually do anything entrepreneurial just didn't exist, because in that type of environment, you're really you're restricted from when you wake up to when you go to bed. So I'd love to say there was something entrepreneurial. I've had thoughts for a long time about it, but I've never been in an environment where I could really act on it until I got to college.
And cool. And take us through what did you go to do at college, and how did it all spin out of control and you became an entrepreneur on the other end?
Yeah, I actually went for psychology. I love learning about psychology, more for myself, I suppose, than for helping other people as a profession. When I grew up, I actually grew up with autism. And many people don't really know that anymore, just because it's something I've worked on a lot, how I present myself. But that's really what drew me to psychology at university. I wanted to learn more about that, because the time I went, even though it was only a few years ago, it's not something a lot of people knew about or talked about, really. So I actually went for a completely different reason in Washington, D.C. at American University. But my final year, I studied abroad in South Korea, and I met my best friend there, a guy called Amin. And he's kind of completely entrepreneurial by spirit. And so hanging out with him, you kind of start having really deep talks about the future and what you want to do. And at the time, I was very confused about what I wanted to do. I was actually thinking to go into web development just because it sounded like a nice career.
Yeah.
And sort of back in 2014, 2015, everyone was talking about web development and coding boot camps and everything. And so I kind of got on that train a little bit. But through my talks with him, I actually discovered my passion for entrepreneurship.
Cool, and it's funny because I said at the start of the episode, the sum of the people that you spend your time with, and you change that. And I went to a boarding school, but I didn't board at the school. Half of it was boarding, and it was very much like wake up, you have breakfast now, you go to school, you have dinner, you have to do your homework in a supervised environment, then you got this little amount of time to yourself, and then it's bed and stuff like that. So they definitely didn't have that chance to probably experience as much outside and abroad. But amazing that you found that best friend who he helped ignite and spark that journey for you.
Looking back, honestly, I think a big factor for me too wasn't just that, but growing up, because I grew up in such a structured way, I was never a fan of authority. The idea of going into a 9-to-5 job with a boss kind of like horrified me. So I knew that I was never going to do that.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to not be in an office environment type of thing. I just didn't know what route to take. And through my conversations with him, it became very clear that was the route I was going to take.
Cool. So you finished college, and how did you get started, or how did you find the passion that you were going to follow? Because I mean, it's all well and good having an idea. Like, I'm sure you're like me, and you meet a lot of people with this so-called great idea, and they're worried about telling other people. And you're like, look, those who are doing it haven't got time to steal your idea, and you're probably not going to take much action on yours. So how did you get into taking action, and was it trial by fire, or did you have a structured plan that kind of all flowed out beautifully?
Yeah, it's a good question. So immediately after my study abroad experience, like almost the day I got back, I read a Reddit post about starting a cleaning business, and this guy just laid it out really in detail how he did that and how other people had done that too. And the combination of those conversations and me finding that, it just sparked it off at the right time. So essentially, the second I got back, I just decided, screw it, I'm going to build a cleaning company. It's not a fancy tech company or anything, but it's a down-to-earth cleaning company, and I can monitor it and grow it in DC that I'm already familiar with. So with this sort of plan in mind, I just went and started, finding subcontractors who could do the cleanings, and then I started finding jobs and marketing it, and a cleaning company was born. That's the super version of it, but yeah. So it was right about 6 months before I graduated from college, I'd started this cleaning company.
What I'd love to know then, so this was what, 2014, 15 that it was starting out?
This was, 2016. Yeah, so my first job, for instance, was July 15th, 2016.
Okay. So when that was all occurring, what were you doing to find the work? Like, how were you? I mean, finding the subcontractors, I'm sure isn't too difficult, because having dealt with a lot of small businesses and people in small business, they suck at marketing, and they're great at applying their trade. So they're like, oh, I'm really good at being a cleaner or being a doctor or being whatever profession. And then they go, and their next step up is start their own business, and then they go, why is this not good? Because everyone should use me because I'm great. So finding the subcontractors, I imagine, was reaching out, negotiating, finding a happy median, and then hoping that quality control was all right, I guess. And but you can talk through that if there was a lot more to it. But how did you go about generating business?
It's a good question. I will say finding good subcontractors is incredibly difficult. Yeah. But yes, so it's a good question. One of the reasons I went into the business is because most of the people in local businesses treat it like it's the 1980s. And most of them are older. They're in their 40s or 50s or 60s. They don't really know how to market online. Yeah. I kind of understood how to do that. And so I knew that if I could find people who could do the cleaning, that I could spend the whole day marketing the business. And so I started marketing on different avenues. There's one called Thumbtack, which is very popular in the US right now. And it's basically like a new Yelp, where people interested in a cleaning or a painting or whatever will submit a quote request. And then business owners will go and quote and give them estimates. And then, based on your reviews and your profile, people will choose you. Yeah. Okay. So I went really hard on that one platform, Thumbtack. Instead of trying 1,000 different things at the same time, I decided I would just dominate one platform in my local community.
Nice. And that worked reasonably well, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it worked very well. We grew crazy quick at first. I was shocked. I mean, from a new entrepreneur's perspective, we went from 0 to 20K a month in less than 90 days. And that was all from Thumbtack. No SEO, no AdWords, only Thumbtack.
There you go, people listening out there. Be resourceful, pick something and go at it. And even though we're talking about Gary Vaynerchuk, and I love some of his stuff, a lot of it's rah-rah and get people jazzed up and things, but he talks about kind of going deep, and he's like, I'm going hard on this platform at the moment. Like, I'm going deep into this platform, and it's, if you pick something and you decide to dominate it, I don't know if you've seen that Reddit post about the number one restaurant in London that had never served a meal. Like,
that's so amazing. The fake restaurant, right?
Yeah, and it's but it shows that if you put the effort into one platform and figure out what makes it tick, you can actually dominate it. Like if it might be Facebook that you're trying to dominate, if it's ads there, don't go everywhere and do Google AdWords and then do Facebook ads and Instagram and try and be omnipresent, or whatever the buzzword is at the moment. But what was some of those first 90 days like for somebody who hasn't had their own business and then they've gone 0 to 20K a month? Like, there's got to be some growing pains there and some headaches. What were some of the biggest ones, and how did you overcome them, or not become too overwhelmed with it all?
I think the biggest problem for me was lack of experience. I'd never really worked a real job at that point, to be honest with you. And I was handling the phone all day, every day. I was answering emails every day. And, if a subcontractor messes up a cleaning, some people have a very short temper. So I had one guy, and I'm not exaggerating, he was screaming at me because they missed something small, and he was just screaming, and I was freaking out because I was just so exhausted with this. It was so this is a good story, actually. This is how I started my second business because of my first business. So I'm this young guy, and my marketing is working too well, and my company's marketing, the amount of people booking was outstripping the amount of teams I had available. And so it was Halloween. And because I was a new business owner, I didn't think to ask my teams if they wanted Halloween off to be with their family. I just kind of assumed they would do the work if we had it. And this was a really bad mistake, because the day before Halloween, maybe 60% of my teams called off, and I had dozens of bookings to do. So when Halloween day came around, because everyone else was booked, I had dozens of phone calls, emails, and texts, and people just so angry at me. And there was just this huge ball of stress kind of encompassing me. And I had a bit of a breakdown because I didn't know what to do. Everyone was freaking out. My business was like falling apart before my eyes. And that's when I realized I didn't have any systems in place. I didn't have anyone to delegate to. And that I reached a point where I couldn't grow beyond it without actually bringing on help. So I actually brought on and trained 2 virtual managers to handle everything for me. So I'd actually gone from working 12 hours a day within a month to working less than 10 minutes a day, just by the way I'd set it up.
Nice. And so what were the systems that straight away, a lot of us have read 4-Hour Work Week and seen how Tim Ferriss goes from 50 emails a day to 5 emails a week. What were the 80%, the 80-20 of you gaining back your time and being able to delegate?
Yeah, I think they're probably a little bit different for local businesses than other types of businesses. For me, the biggest one was at the first was automation. It was automating email reminders, text reminders, reviews, all the basic follow-up. Me automating that saved me a couple hours immediately. The other big thing was learning to delegate. And so this is where the 80-20 comes in, I guess, is when you have a local business, it's not like an e-commerce store where you get emails of complaints or emails of orders coming in. You have people texting you all the time, the whole day, for 8 to 10 hours a day, just in 2 to 5 minute chunks you're working out. So you're always being interrupted, and you can't get anything important done. So the big thing for me was delegating to someone those text messages, those emails, anything that happened with the teams, all that stuff that came in intermittently throughout the day, having someone else handle that so I could actually focus on bigger, more important tasks was by far the biggest thing that made a difference. Just not having someone in my ear all the time.
And was that a VA overseas that you had managing that, or was that someone locally? And how did you transition and train them to again, quality control and make sure that they're, not, I guess, interpreting things wrong or, replying in an inappropriate fashion or anything?
Yeah, it's a good question. So they are remote, but they're all based in the U.S. and they're all U.S. citizens. So for my own company, my VAs they're in New Hampshire and one is in Maryland right now. So that's where they live and do things. And then my clients, they all have U.S. or Canadian VAs sort of all over the place.
Yeah. And I mean, because that's what I had a VA. He does like maybe 2 hours a month for me on just some data input stuff. Like I only got him to do it once, and then I still have to do this thing every 2 months for the next little bit. And it's funny when you talk, like, the job is very, very simple. It only takes a couple of hours. And it was funny because he said something in like Upwork chat, and it was something along the lines of, I don't care for 2-hour jobs, something. What he meant was, I don't mind doing 2-hour jobs. I was like, sweet. I said to him, fine, I'll find somebody else. He's like, no, sir. Hence why I was asking about the miscommunications and things like that. But he was there. I just needed a problem solved very quickly, and just happened that he could do it. But so
that's so great.
What's the business from the cleaning side of things, and then everything else that you're doing? What is that? Your 10 minutes a day. Is it still 10 minutes a day in that business?
I'd say it's probably closer to 25, 30 now, because I'm actually adding windows and carpet cleaning as well. And so just because we're in the beginning phases of adding those services, I'm naturally a little more involved making the templates and the strategies for how to market that. Yeah. But just the house cleaning part is probably about 10 minutes a day still.
And what is your 10 minutes made up of, or your 30 minutes made up of? Is it tenders or?
It's just me checking in with my VA over WhatsApp, just saying, hey, is everything cool? Yeah, everything's cool. And then at the end of the day, I check in, hey, is everything cool? Yeah, it's still cool. And occasionally a text or an email comes in that I need to pay a bill or something. But they are really amazing, so I really don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so what does your day look like nowadays? What takes up the majority of your time? And you've got some other businesses and things like that in the space. What do you do?
Yeah, so my main business now is actually Inova Local. It's local business virtual assistant company. And I know most people are familiar with virtual assistant companies at this point, but what they're familiar with is VAs for simple marketing tasks or social media research, things like that. But we actually are the only company in the world who provides trained virtual assistants and virtual managers specifically for local businesses. So we can do simple things just like phone calls and texts, all the way up to managing your teams and managing your entire company for you. So we actually run people's companies for them fully.
Wow. That's I actually read an awesome article a couple of years ago about CEO or someone I think it was a CEO, and he actually became CEO of 2 different companies and had 3 or 4 different VAs basically doing everything. And
that's amazing.
So I think the way it had worked is he set up one that he could work predominantly remotely from for his CEO role, but remotely just meant the other office that he worked out of. And then he'd say he's going out for meetings all the time, and he'd go and play golf and whatnot. And he eventually got caught. But I mean, you can't be angry. Apparently the company was carrying on to make profits and turnover, and he just learned to delegate well, and that's what you want.
Wow, I need to be like this guy. Maybe I'll sign up for a few CEO roles too.
Yeah.
But,
so how long's this like local VA service been going, and I guess what have been the headaches and things, or the trials and tribulations that you've had so far in this business?
Yeah, it's been out almost a year now, and so I still spend probably 6 to 8 hours of my day on it because I'm very serious about growing it. I'd say the toughest thing is that every local business is so unique, so we can train them up even before they start in the local business, probably 70-80% of the way through. But that last 20% is really difficult. It's stuff in the owner's mind that they haven't written down anywhere, or maybe there's a personality conflict to sort through. There's a lot of sort of interpersonal and company policy stuff that we just have to get in there and learn for a few weeks. before we actually get it. And it's just, that's one of the troubles is that initial couple weeks period that we've recently smoothed out. But in the beginning, we were sort of bashing our heads together to figure out how we can make that onboarding process a lot smoother and learn the stuff before we actually start with the customers. So I'd say that. And the second biggest thing was we focused mainly on cleaning companies at first, just because I have a cleaning company.
Yeah.
But transitioning to other local businesses like painting and lawn care, our first couple clients with that was a learning experience as well. That was quite tough at first.
Yeah, I guess they've all got different, follow-up regimes and billing and training and all the different things that go with them. You should check out, and I don't know how it'd work for your business, but another one of the guests and one of my good friends, he started it's called Content Snare, and it's a software that he used for his web development and design business to get the information off clients with the follow-up systems in place and things like that he doesn't, it saves him countless times, but now he's turned it into a software as a service product for other web designers and things like that. But last time I was talking to him, he is looking at different white label options because it's just for web designers and web developers. So it might be something worth having a look at. I don't know, if they're on that last 20%, I think it, puts out particular things and has follow-ups to get that information off them. So, it's not necessarily you, and higher automation equals, more room for growth.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's I will say, when someone's owned a business for 40 years, and they want you to come in and run it for them, that will be a challenge no matter how you do it. It's a lot of trust involved. I find trust is the biggest thing with business owners, is them feeling comfortable trusting you with their business. That's like a very serious thing for them to do.
Yeah.
And so it's just a hard thing to overcome at first,
So talk me through that. How are you getting clients in for this type of business? Like, are you still targeting, was it Washington or?
So we work all over the U.S. and Canada. We have clients probably in 20 states now.
Yep. And okay, so you get these clients. How are you outreaching? If you've got proprietary stuff, that's cool. But like, how are you getting that 40-year businessman saying, "Hey, we can"? Because to me, it's freaking awesome for somebody who's had a business for a long time. They are the goodwill. I was having a chat with this. I've got a physical therapy, a physio practice in Brisbane, and I was talking to one of the doctors who owns the building, and he's looking to potentially acquire another doctor's, and the doctor's worked in there for 30 plus years. He's done a really expensive kit out. Because of that, the place is running at a loss. It's got full clientele and years of loyal customers. It can be turned over to make a profit. But we're talking about how do you potentially buy that? Because the goodwill is the owner, who's been, him and his wife, who have been the steadfast doctors in there for years, and they're going to transition out of it. So you don't want to pay too much for an asset that's definitely going to leave in the next year after purchase. So to me, what you're doing, if you can transition somebody to manage the staff or take over the company, or at least like add in that next level of systems, it kind of puts a goodwill that isn't the owner. It puts other things in control. So if you've been in it for 40 years, and this is turning into a bit of a rant, but if you've been in it for 40 years, it's a hell of a lot easier to sell if you go, "Hey, we've got a virtual team running it. You can come in and grow it," rather than you can come in and try and be the boss that I am and lose everything along the way. So long question short, how are you getting your clients on board and building that trust with them to hand over the keys?
It's a good question. A lot of people are chasing the dream of having a business but not having to run it, but very few people can actually deliver on that. So one way I've proved, I guess, to a lot of older business owners that they can trust me is Facebook groups. I'm very active in a lot of local business Facebook groups, and I constantly do helpful posts and case studies. So when I was building my own maid company, they were all following along and watching me build my maid company.
Yeah.
And when I started my VA company, I was still establishing relations with them and still being helpful and talking through the things with them. And so because I already had that rapport with them, they were much more willing to say, okay, we'll give it a try at least for a month or 2 months. And when I had those initial few customers in, that's when things started to pick up, because then they thought, hey, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm not doing anything in my own business. This too good to be true dream actually turned out to be true. And so they started telling their other business owner friends about it as well. And so a big chunk of our customers is actually from referrals, because business owners in their local communities, if you have a painting company or a cleaning company, you talk to other painting business owners and cleaning business owners a lot. And so it comes up a lot. Hey, I have my VA do that for me, or I have my virtual manager do that for me. It just naturally comes up a lot in conversation. Yeah. So referrals have been a huge thing for us, and Facebook groups.
Is it just word of mouth referrals, or have you got like a referral system in place that rewards for referrals of people?
I'm gonna be honest with you, we should, but I've been lazy on that. Yeah. So I mean, it's just been word of mouth.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an interesting one, because again, this is another conversation I've had with other guests and people when it comes to the referral system. Business owners trust other business owners, like you're saying, but sometimes when it's like they then sign up and then get told that if they refer somebody, they're going to get rewarded for, again, it puts this kind of bad taste at times in their mouth. So it's this hard thing to weigh up of, am I, did he refer me because he just wanted a nice, $100 bucks, or did he refer me because, he just wanted to? So I don't think there's any right answer, but I mean, if you're getting the word of mouth in anyway, then it's happy days.
Yeah, we do email them, but that's it. About a few weeks in, we have a call or an email or even Facebook message. A lot of my clients is just Facebook now. Yeah. We do check in a few weeks in and we say, by the way, we're really happy that this is changing your life so much. And while they're still ecstatic about it, we usually ask them, is there any other business owners that that you think would benefit from this? Yeah. So we don't kind of bribe them with something, I guess, but we do ask them up front, like, we really love growing this. So if there's anyone we'd love to help them too.
Yeah. See, that's what I love. Like, I mean, from a house practitioner side of things, I think it's an easier thing to do. Is I can say to people, here's a 50% off voucher for any friends. If they use it, I'll send you a 50% off voucher for your next consultation with me, which is kind of like a win-win, that they've got to help their friend first before they get helped. Whereas, but a lot of the time it's just asking the question, which as business owners, a lot of us are sometimes scared to do, or, there's trepidation. But if you're providing a good product, there shouldn't be. What influencers or mentors or books and things have you read or followed, or people do you gain influence off on your journey so far outside of your best friend?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. I have a movement and handstand coach. I do a lot of hand balancing, which is sort of like Cirque du Soleil type handstands and tricks like that. I'm really into that. So he teaches me that stuff, but he also teaches me a lot about life. He's a very balanced, kind individual. And so his lessons that he teaches me, they're not typically about business directly, but I take a lot of the stuff away that he teaches me and I can apply it to my business practices as well. So he's been a huge mentor for me, just in treating people with integrity and gaining trust and having an impact on people, and sort of be, I guess, less profit motivated and more helping people motivated. So he's been a huge help in my business and in other areas of my life. I would say, I guess it's cheesy at this point, but Tim Ferriss has been a huge influence for me. I read that book and a lot of things clicked. He talks a lot about automation and delegation and productivity. And that stuff had a huge influence on me as well, because even though I'm an entrepreneur and I have multiple businesses, it's actually not that big a part of my life. I spend hours with my friends every day. I'm working out a lot. I'm reading. I do a lot of other things during my day. And I think Tim Ferriss and his book have helped me achieve that balance where I'm not a completely burnt out, checked out mess, and I'm just working on my business 16 hours a day, but it actually helped me achieve a balance where it's one part of my life, but it doesn't take over my whole life.
I think that's what's really important is what you'll find, and it's probably 80% of the guests on here are Tim Ferriss groupies. We're the age group that love Tim Ferriss, and I think a lot of people, they see the 4-hour work week and they go, oh yeah, you're just trying to get to only doing 4 hours. work a week, where a lot of the time it's not the case. It's you want to, some I've interviewed people who have used the 4-hour work week to get down to 4 hours and then built back up to 70 hours a week, and then, figured out how they can wind that back, but without being able to delegate and be efficient and use their time wisely, they haven't been able to take those next steps to leveling up, because some of them do, their business is, a huge part of their life. But for other people, it's, if you're working 80 hours a week, you wouldn't be doing a lot of the other things you love. Your business would turn into a chore. You're not going off and doing handstands and hanging out with your friends and, experiencing the things you do. And I guess that's what I see the 4-hour work week as, is lifestyle by design, more so than trying to get this 4 hours would drive most people nuts, because they don't know how to fill the rest of that time or that void. But they don't realize that it takes 400 hours of work or more. It's probably a lot more to get that 4 hours of work week. It's not just this magic thing. But it sounds like the 4-hour work week and Tim Ferriss has really given you that chance to experience life on your terms and design what you want to do and when you want to do it. And there's times where you work really hard, like you are for this current aspect of the business, and then there's times where you can decide what you're going to do with your time and the scaling.
Yeah, that's the real gift it gave me, was an inspiration and a way to cut down the stuff I don't want to do to 4 hours a week or 10 hours, and then fill it up with other stuff that I do want to do, right? If you just cut down on the stuff you don't want to do and you don't fill it back up, you're just going to be empty and depressed. And I see that a lot with people I talk to a lot of people, of course, like you, who are really into Tim Ferriss, and a lot of people are able to reduce the amount of work they do, but they're not happy still, they're just kind of like, what do I do now?
Yeah. So talking about, the use of your time in 2 years time, if we were to fast forward 2 years time from now, where would you be and what would you be doing, or what are you going to be doing?
Very tough question for an entrepreneur. Well, I am starting a third business shortly. In 2 years, though, can I give you a 2 and a 5 year answer? Because
yeah.
Why not, right? So in 2 years, I think I'll still be doing pretty much the same day to day, but it'll be at a much later stage. I would love to be helping 500 small business owners run their businesses. That's a big goal of mine. It doesn't, I want to reach that as quick as possible, but if it takes me a few more years, that's okay. But a big goal for Inova Local is to help 500 small business owners take back their time and their life and run their business, but not have it run them. So that's that goal. And the 5-year goal, I actually want to go into social entrepreneurship and start a social venture to bring awareness to a lot of things, like mental disorders and autism, for example. So my life right now is entrepreneurial, but I think it's just a small section of my life. I think it's going to be very different in a couple of years.
Nice. Well, that wraps up what we were going to discuss today. I'm sure I could have gone for hours on end, fanboying Tim Ferriss with you, but I just want to thank you so much for your time and just welcome you to the Youngpreneurs family. If people want to find out more about what you're doing and where you're doing it, where can they go, or what can they do?
Yeah, sure. The easiest one is always Facebook. If you just search Chris Schwab, SCHWAB, I'm the guy doing handstands in my cover photo. So I don't think there's too many Chris Schwabs doing that. So that's probably the easiest way to find me, or InovaLocal.com. You can get in touch with me that way as well. So those are the 2 easiest ones. I don't use Twitter or Instagram. Cool. Really just Facebook and my websites.
Wicked. Well, we'll link all of that at passiveincomeyoung.com. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to catching up in somewhere in that 2 to 5 year range and hearing about what you've been up to and following your success in the meantime.
Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast.
So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.